Hey guys, so I originally planned on only making one video today, but getting into the flow of that first one, I actually came up with something else I decided to share and just making this other one. So that is something I think we all experience, at least in the United States and like developed worlds, right? Is going to school and work, right? And what I want to address in terms of epilepsy and school and work is that oftentimes those of us who have seizure disorders or epilepsy have to explain that definitely to teachers, to the school nurse, so that you are safe and there's someone who knows what to do if you do have a seizure. And for instance, I know when I was in school, if you watched my previous video, it took me so much longer to process things and to do my homework and to just get things done, partially due to the seizures, because it messes with your brain, and partially due to the medications, because they're sedatives. They literally slow you down. They sedate you, just as it sounds, right? So I remember since the time I started having seizures when I was about 9 or 10, having to go up to my teachers, every single one of them, and especially in middle school and high school, you have a different teacher for each different subject. At least I did where I went. So it was a lot of people to go up to after class the first day of school and say, hey, my name's Danielle, I have seizures, this is what to do if I should have one in class. And it may not seem like a lot to most people, but if you're someone who's shy, like I was very, very shy, it was pretty difficult at first. I eventually got used to it, but there's a certain aspect to that just makes you really uncomfortable and feel like you're not a normal person, or like there's some underlying feeling like, something's wrong with me and I guess I just gotta deal with it. Or there's just this, I want to call it shame, maybe. And that may not be true for everybody, but I think for me, especially because I started having them right around like adolescence, right, and around middle school, there was just this added dimension of a discomfort and emotional turmoil. So I wanted to share that so people have a little bit more understanding that it's a lot. And then you also have to explain, well, you don't have to, but I know I did. I would explain it to my close friends. And I didn't go around telling all my classmates, right? That's a lot of people. So that would be completely unreasonable. But people who I had made friends with and got to know me better, I did explain to them. And fortunately, my friends were very compassionate and understanding and wanting to help. But I believe not everybody has that experience. There's some people even whose families don't believe them. I think as a kid, as a child, fortunately, it's usually a little bit more believable because you see it. But I know for some adults, their families don't really believe they have seizures and they're just trying to do it for attention. I've seen a lot of people post that. I don't know where in the country or in the world this is, but it was disturbing to me because I was very blessed to have people in my life who believed me and wanted to help and all of that. So anyway, that's my little short school story. And then similarly for work, people with epilepsy and seizure disorders are not required to let their employers or potential employers know that they have epilepsy. It's not required at all, because it can be used by some people as like discrimination. It's illegal for them to discriminate against you if you have epilepsy. So, but some people do it anyway. Some organizations and businesses do that anyway, but pretend it's something else, like, oh, you just weren't the right fit. When in reality, if you've told them something, because of epilepsy. I know this from personal experience. Try to be a very honest person, so sometimes when I've gone into interviews, I'll go through it, it's really going well, and at the end I'll sort of let them know, I do have a seizure disorder, but it shouldn't really affect anything, and just try and make them very, very comfortable about it, but aware. It's just, maybe it's from talking to my school teachers about that much, but I noticed every time I did that, they were really excited, but then I wouldn't get the job. And then I just started to do these experiments where I would go into interviews, I wouldn't say anything about having seizures, and those were the people that got back to me, at least, or hired me, right? So I hate to say it, but I think there are people out there who hear the word seizure or epilepsy and kind of disregard people. Even though it's illegal, if you volunteered that information, you kind of put yourself in a position where people will discriminate against you. They may call it something else. They may say, oh, you didn't have this skill or that skill, or we prefer someone who is more outgoing, or who has the, just excuses, basically, excuses. And I was talking with a friend the other day about this, because one of my jobs was a large organization, but the sort of offices in which we worked, there was only 2, maybe 3 main people who worked there, because it was, well, long story. But anyway, we were talking about it, and even though I did a really good job, I was very successful, I'm good with people, I don't think I would have ever been able to advance to anything higher than maybe assistant manager. I would never have been able to be a manager, especially in a smaller situation like that, because it would be a liability to the company if I were to have a seizure in front of the clients, or how do I say this? Yeah, I mean, when I worked in retail, I learned that, and this is a different job, but I learned that the managers and assistant managers usually had to come in and fill in for people if they weren't able to find someone else to fill in for them, or if someone called in sick unexpectedly, usually it was the manager or the assistant manager who had to come in. But with epilepsy, you can't always know when a seizure is going to strike. So it's not like you can just call in. And if being in a managerial position, you need to be able and ready to jump in if someone's not available to work that day or that time. And that's not always possible, because you have to take care of yourself, know what your triggers are. A lot of people have lack of sleep and stress as their triggers for having seizures. I know that's the case for me. But if you're overworked and really stressed, and maybe you didn't sleep well because you were stressed, you put yourself at risk. So it's, that was sort of I won't say a difficult conversation, because I kind of had figured it out a while ago, or suspected it, but my friend who I was talking with was kind of confirming that. So that's sort of a disappointing situation for people with epilepsy to have. And again, you don't have to tell your employers, but for me, once I was employed and had signed the paperwork, I did let my managers know, because it's a safety thing. For me, it's a safety thing. Even though I wasn't having seizures a lot, you still have to have people know what to do should that happen. And I think it does make people nervous from what I've experienced. Some people handle it better than others. But there's also people who probably wouldn't handle it so well, or would try and wiggle out of having you be employed, like I said before. But having to explain to people all the time, every step of the way in school and work. And I know for me, I prefer to tell my friends, or like if I'm in a relationship, I prefer they know, because for me, I know at some point, sooner or later, it's likely I will have a seizure in front of them, and they will have to deal with that. So it's just better they know. But it's kind of a struggle in its own way to have to keep explaining to all these people, or debate whether or not to explain to certain people, like, you know, will they not want to be my friend anymore? Will they not want to go out with me anymore? Like, how will they fire me, or will they find a way to not hire me? Like, it takes a huge emotional toll, and that's something you don't see on the outside if you're not living with the person, or even if you are, who has epilepsy. You don't necessarily know that that's going on for them inside. So I think it's important to know that. I'm not saying like have a pity party for us, like that's totally unnecessary, but I think it's better to be aware of that, because it does take a toll. And if for people who are not particularly good at managing their emotions to begin with, that emotional buildup can spill out in some other way, and it may not be intentionally towards you, but it just may be like this overflow of emotions and stress. So yeah, that's what I wanted to say about that. This video ended up being a little longer than I anticipated, but I hope you guys found it useful. And if you're someone with a seizure disorder, epilepsy, and there's a topic that you want me to talk about or address at some point, please let me know. I think right now it's just in the comment section that we can do that, but good enough for now. Have a great day or night wherever you are, guys, and see you next time.